And hey guys, welcome back to Winter Wolfston, your one-stop shopping location for all things nerdly news. If it's important to you in the nerd culture sphere, we're going to cover it here on the channel. It's what King Z and I do. This is going to be FrostCast episode 4, and we're going to get things rolling. Let me bring King Z in, and we got a big one. We got a whopper topic just to start things off, my brother. Now, maybe folks out there have been living under a rock, maybe they haven't, but the world's most predictable, most epic victory lap is going down. You can take a quick peek here. YouTube is wall to wall. Acolyte being canceled. That's right. There is no season 2. No season 2 for you. The Acolyte won't strike back. And we're commemorating things. Yeah. So that's the most I've ever had putting a little clip together for a victory lap. Because I mean, dude, I don't know, man. I'll take this topic and run with it, dude. It's not like we didn't see this coming, and I think only the biggest shill fake tourist fan on the planet really thought this was getting another go.
There's a lot of people who thought this was going to get another go, was going to get a second season. There's so many questions left unanswered. Like, who's that green guy at the very end?
Who cares?
It was Yoda.
I
know
it was Darth Most Plagueis. Yeah, we want to know, but you know, just because they had open-ended plot threads didn't mean they're getting the season 2. I mean, good God, if networks like Fox can cancel Firefly, you know what I mean? Like there's garbage like this isn't going to come back. But I think, you know, a lot of people, you're right. I got to walk back what I just said. A lot of people probably did think we were getting a season 2 for this trash because Disney so far has given us season 2s for other things. You know, they've optioned follow-up seasons and have threatened us with follow-up seasons for other things that have been kind of bad. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they really committed to just flushing another 180 mil down the toilet on this.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it'd be another 180 mil, but what I'm seeing is that this is more writing on the wall. Like, we're starting to see some more. David Filoni promoted to creative director. And then Kathleen Kennedy dropping hints like, I want to retire on a win. Now, I don't think it's more of going to be retirement. I think it's a forced retirement. So they're going to see what her last little bit here and let her coast off and then disappear. Like, you're not coming back. So enjoy this last year of you getting paid because we're not paying you anymore. Because out of all the IPs that Disney has purchased, Star Wars is the only one that hasn't made its money back yet.
Ain't that some shit?
Marvel's tripled what they paid for it from Stan Lee, and I forgot who owned the comic book rights. It was a three-prong purchase that they did to get Marvel's name, and then they bought Universal, and then they bought the Fox, and then they made the deal with Sony. But they've made their money back threefold. Star Wars, which they paid what, 12 billion or 20 billion for?
It was some stupid number. I don't even. It was so long ago. I don't even remember. But you're right.
And it has
like nothing they've done has been net positive. Yeah,
has been able to bring its money back. And George Lucas is laughing his way to the bank, just swimming in his billions.
Dude, nonstop. He's Scrooge McDucking it with like galactic credits, without a doubt. Dude, I think you're right, man. I've seen that story thrown around. I think it was last week that the Kennedy story was thrown around, where it was like, you know, she wants to do the retirement on a high note thing. And I'm looking back at the track record and I'm like, I mean, that was going to be Indy 5. No, that could have been any element of the Star Wars sequel trilogy. No, that could have been any of the Disney.
Was the
right
the shiny
the only
star
shot,
and all of that.
Right. And it was a retread, right? It's like, is the big victory she could retire on? Like, what if she did a press conference tomorrow and was like, yeah, I unilaterally decided we got to just stop this nonsense. The Acolyte's got to go. And then she could retire. And that's the high note. Because there's no commercial success coming for her in the foreseeable future that I can see.
And I don't think it was really her who asked it. I think it came from higher up. I think it was Iger going, all right, I've given you enough rope. I've given you enough to hang yourself with.
10 years, dude. 10 years and billions of forsaken revenue. Billions.
And let's not forget a diss track to all of us fans who didn't enjoy the Acolyte. So
I know. Dude, from diss track to discontinued. Dude, this is what like, let me say this clearly, right? Because I'm sure King Z feels the same way. Because as you guys know, King Z has worked on several movie productions. He's been behind the camera. He's been in front of the camera. He's worked everywhere except craft services. Because I've had his food; it's terrible. You don't want him in there. But
What do
believe
you
me,
mean? My grilled cheese is rock solid.
dude, your grilled cheese is bang. We could pull a separate segment on that. Like we take absolutely zero pleasure in below the line behind the camera folks losing jobs or not being brought back, and
Yep.
even and folks that
Yep.
do like and folks that are extras or even actors in a lot of cases, like Manny Jacinto who played Smilo Ren. I hear good things about him. He said a couple of boneheaded things about not seeing representation growing up as a kid, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. You're 22 years younger than I am, and I saw it, so I'm thinking you must have seen it somewhere. But he's a talented dude. You know what I mean? Saul, I can't remember his name. Talented guy. People like these people. It
Mm.
sucks that they got played the way they did. They're not out there dropping diss tracks on you. It was the one girl, you know?
On the representation, I can see a little bit where he's coming at because I mean they wasn't prominent. Like you had Pat Morita, who played like he played Korean, he played Japanese. They didn't have
Yeah.
different people of those ethnicities carrying those
You're
type of
right.
roles.
Specifically.
So
Sure.
that's about it. It was a
That's
very
fair.
limited number. So I can see where he did say that and like having more. I mean, look how popular Crazy Rich Asians were.
Yeah, no,
Like
I mean, that's fair. I mean, if you cut it down to specific ethnicities within a large part of the world, I guess that would be a fair statement. But again, I'm not trying to knock him for having that. That's the experience he's had. Fine. I wish nothing on him. It's not like he came out and said, "Well, we can't make the other stuff any good because it'll overshadow this and this." This, by definition, that it exists is good, and that's Stenberg's entire stance. That's Leslie Headland's entire stance. And I'm not. I feel like today's the day to not pull a punch on this one, right? Like my outlook on that show is like your art only gets to exist as art non-critically if it's a non-commercially viable product. This was $1 billion studio that put this out there. It's not like an art center or an art show at a community college where like it's kind of dickish to roll up in there and tell somebody their work sucks. These are professionals. They're supposed to live up to the reputation and to the understanding that they're going to deliver a AAA product, and none of them did. And just because it exists and it's written by a certain someone and it's starring a certain someone and directed by a certain someone, no, nerddom fandom exists to crap on things that are bad, and we've done so since the beginning of time. What you look like, who you married, who you know, none of that is a bulletproof vest against against criticism.
yeah.
It's just not. And that's the Acolyte in a nutshell. Is they learn the hard way that these shows need to be created to scale. You can't spend 180 million on the nichest audience possible and expect Empire Strikes Back returns. You just can't. You can't.
Well, there are those reviewers out there who do what we do who did say, well, you'll never succeed with a female lead or a minority female lead. Those people are complete morons because the people who actually care about this, people like Star Wars Theory shouts out, and people
Mm-hmm.
like us,
Great channel.
we just want good stories. We want a competent story told from start to finish. I don't care who the lead is. If you could carry the role, then take the role. I have no
Mm-hmm.
problem with that. That was not my problem with the show. The problem with the show, and one reviewer said it perfect, and I said it to you on the very first review. He had the exact same thought I did, and that guy's he gets paid to do it. He said two letters. You know what two letters that was?
I don't remember.
CW.
Yeah,
It was,
dude, exactly right. It was Batman. It was Batwoman. It was CW Star Wars Batwoman show. You're not wrong. Continue, bro. Continue. You're on a roll.
yeah. So it had nothing to do with representation or the lack of representation why people didn't like this show. What they didn't like this show is that it looked like you took darts and threw it at ideas and like, okay, that's episode 1, let's throw some darts over here, okay, that's episode 2. Even though they don't align, they don't have no pacing, you rushed everything. You knew who the bad guy was as soon as episode 2 was on, so there was no big reveal. They're like, oh, this is going to be a mystery. There was no mystery. The mystery was why I was still watching it. So
The answer is because I made you. That's how that happened.
that's what was wrong with this show, and that's the reason why it failed so hard. Because I mean, if you want to take representation into it and like diverse cast, let's go back to the failure before this one, Ahsoka, which was miles and yards ahead of this one by far. And let's talk about you had a minority lead, female
Rosario
minority
Dawson,
lead. You had a female minority secondary lead.
I can't remember her name, but Sabine Wren, the character. Yeah.
Yep, Sabine. I mean, you had a compelling story. We all knew the big character that we wanted to see was Thrawn, which they
Yeah.
fumbled, but
A little bit. But still 60% more views than,
yeah.
than the Acolyte. And that's the part I want to touch on, because if you've watched, I know you've heard me bitch about this a lot, when we do the comparison between the Acolyte and something like House of the Dragon, similar budget, House of the Dragon gave you more episodes, twice the length, and like full scale dragon battle in like 2 of the episodes. The sets look great. The costuming was, all that stuff was good. We saw where they put their money. I have no idea where they put their $180 million on this show. Like the lightsaber whip that they used once in the last episode to kill a bug. You remember when the internet was on fire when that was revealed, like in like the stinger and the sizzle stuff before the show came out, that we were going to get purple lightsaber whip? People were losing their minds. Yeah, no, it went nowhere. But I think the more damning report on this show, right, and this is pretty much you can run with the end of the segment after this, is that this show opened with 4 million views on like the opening 5-day or whatever it was. And they tried to tout that as a major victory for the platform, telling us it's the largest release that Disney Plus has had this year. But it only opened against Echo and like X-Men 97, shows nobody was going to watch. And on top of that, when they rolled that bit farther and they get into the weeds on it, they tell you that it only netted 11 million globally. Like that's like a third of what Rings of Power for that all that garbage show got in its first season on its opening release. It made barely the Nielsen top 10 for those first 2 episodes and promptly fell out of the top 10 after episode 3, where it went off a cliff with The Power of Many. I have it, The Power of Canceled. I don't know if you noticed that. And it only made it back to Nielsen for the finale. And why do you think that is? Because people love seeing a car crash, dude. People wanted to see it. People going into that on Twitter for 48 hours before that finale were like, are they going to have Yoda? Like that's all literally anybody showed up for, how they were going to do Saul dirty, and will they have the green guy? That's it. And then after that, no one's talked about this show for a fucking month until the announcement came out yesterday afternoon that it was Ixnay. You know, they were talking because they were talking about it at D23. They brought most of the cast out to hype it, and then canceled it on Manny Jacinto's birthday. Dick move. But I mean, dude, run and go act in something else. Apparently, you're talented.
Yeah,
you know,
the guy who played the biggest loss out of this whole show is a compelling bad guy that could have been something that built what the Sith became. Like it could have led to the Darth Maul, Darth Plagueis, Dark, and the Emperor. Like you had somebody that would have been interesting, the only interesting character, and you wrote him poor dialogue, poor story arcs, and then just wasted him.
I do 100%. And if I had to throw one more kick the dead horse while it's down thing, again, I'm not going to slide out of an Acolyte segment without just pointing out the blatant hypocrisy that, depending on who writes, who directs, and who's kind of in charge of the show, it's okay to put guys in certain sexualized positions for the thirst trap and to get people to talk about, jacked shirtless dude on social media and get everybody all worked up about it. But if they had flipped those roles and it was Chimere spying on Osha bathing, topless in a pond or whatever in the ocean, and then pulled a weapon on her, it would have been the Joker scene. People fucking lost their minds had they switched that. But all over social media for that entire week that came out, we get to get bombarded with that. And this is the thing. I don't care that you did that. I care that you're telling me it doesn't work the other way. And it's either a two-way street or it's not. And that's the hypocrisy of this show, on top of everybody losing their tree that it's not coming back and trying to blame the dude bros. I'm like, yo, where were you when the show was out? Because it's still sitting at 18% on Rotten Tomatoes, which means there's a lot fewer of you than the people you perceive as the bigots, the transphobes, the incels, the basement dwellers, the dude bros, whatever you want to call people that didn't like your garbage show. That's all projection, you calling us those things. Because as King Z just said, if they brought out Bryce Dallas Howard, or if they brought back Patty Jenkins and gave her some writing support, I'm convinced the Rogue Squadron movie could work. I'm convinced Bryce Dallas Howard, who's had successful runs on The Mandalorian, could capably write a show at the very least, if not make a very good one. This is on you clowns for not showing up the same way it was when every time a movie event comes out. I'm thinking of things like Bros, romantic comedy, a gay couple from last year. The budget was $6 trillion. It made $50K opening weekend. You have to scale down to fit your target audience. You're not the mainstream audience. I'm sorry. That's all I
Yeah,
got on that.
yeah. I think that's a good rant to
So are we
end
ever going to
this
talk about the
on.
Acolyte again? Yeah,
No,
yeah, we're done. We're done with the
it's
Acolyte talk.
dead. It
Unless
is
somebody
no
makes a death
longer.
threat. Yeah.
It's done. It's in the past. Let's move on. And moving
Speaking of
on,
death threats,
we're talking about death threats. Let's talk about security of actors, because a story came out about, from The Last of Us season 2, where extra security was brought on to protect certain actresses who play major roles.
yeah. Now we're I don't know. I don't think you and I have ever actually talked about the game The Last of Us 2, but you're aware of the pivotal event that sends
Yes,
everybody into a tizzy. Okay, so
and
we're not going to talk about that today.
yeah, and that's
We
why I
won't ruin
didn't
it for
play the
folks.
video that was linked with this. I was just going with the
Okay,
headline because the video does
gotcha.
spoil that. So I do, for the
Yes.
people who haven't played the game and don't want to be have this spoiled, you have just the headline. So there
Yeah.
is a very controversial character in this, played by a female character, and based on what people know she does in the game, the actress who's portraying her has been getting would death threats and stuff like that. I mean, and this is a very common thing, surprisingly, in the film industry, because apparently people don't believe that the actors are
Yeah.
make believe, that somehow
Separate.
they embody, they don't know how to separate fiction and reality. But because of her character, they've added extra security due to the sensitivity of how people are, which I think is just completely wrong. I mean, not doing the extra security, but the
Yeah, yeah,
need
yeah.
for the extra security is completely wrong. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Yeah. So, I'm a scattergram on this one because I feel like I'm 47 times bitten, twice shy on this situation, right? I'm with them hiring as much security as they want to keep people safe if that's what they have to do. The problem I have with this story, right, is that anytime one of these things comes up, it usually preemptively occurs to ward off criticism of something that sucks later. Right. And I think of things like Kenobi, where they hired the actress that played Riva and told her to expect like racist fans coming after her before they shot a single frame of that show. So, and then printed articles, courtesy of the circuit of people that print this kind of garbage, like Variety, the Mary Sue Collider, Kotaku, all the usuals. So they've already poisoned the well and told her to expect that, right? And they base it on 2 or 3 tweets that Kelly Marie Tran got 10 years ago from TLJ, where somebody wrote a completely callous and assholedness tweet about Asians not being in Star Wars, or some god awful, cowardly thing that you'd write to any, not to be sexist here, to a woman, let alone anybody else. It's pathetic, right? That's our official stance. That's always been our official stance. Leave actors alone for the crap that's on the screen. They took a job. They're just people cashing checks to do work. They usually put in their best effort. You're not supposed to come after them or their kids because of the work they do. But I find it laughable that the receipts are never provided, that these people are ever typically threatened, harassed, coerced on the level that they say. Dude, it's the internet. Dude, we have a small channel of like 300 people, and we've had weirdos message us. We're
Yep.
nobody. So Kelly Marie Tran, with the might of Lucasfilms and Disney behind her, is in a position where that effect is magnified by about 1,000,000,000%. Like, you have to expect there are a-holes out there. Because I saw all the tweets today blaming us about the Acolyte getting canceled, people talking about Disney has 30 days to reverse this decision or they're going to come down to the studio, people wishing death on folks like Nerdrotic and the Critical Drinker as if they somehow had executive control and could get this canceled. There are unhinged folks out there. I don't doubt that. But the only receipts I ever see from these knuckleheads where like sites like TDS and Data Racer they compile these tweets and show you the insanity that these people bring. What I want to say about the character, if I could, dude, I find it kind of hypocritical that they hired you know who they hired? They hired Caitlin Dever. You remember who she is, right? She was the
Uh.
lead from that sci-fi movie we watched with the alien. No One Can Save You, I think was the title. That's her. That's who's playing Abby.
Oh, okay.
That's the girl from that movie. So she's about 5'4", 115 pounds. She doesn't
Soaking
look
wet.
like Abby at all. Yeah, soaking wet. She doesn't look like Abby at all. Abby in the game is a linebacker built, possibly not a biological female playing a female situation. So I find it kind of hypocritical that a company that would typically align itself with those kind of progressive values didn't just hire somebody trans to play the role. Like, why aren't we all in? Why aren't we allies? What's going on over there? Why are we hiring another typical? She's talented, but another typical petite Hollywood brunette to play a character that clearly isn't supposed to be a typical petite Hollywood brunette. Like, what's the deal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the other controversy that they brought up in the videos because they said that she didn't really look or portray the character based on what the video game had her.
Yeah.
But once again, that's up for interpretation of how they're going to play this. Like we're not even sure that inciting event is actually going to happen in season 2 because they might
That's
try to
fair.
save that for season 3 to give the Lily a little bit. So
Honestly, that might be a wise decision because I mean, there is not a third game. So
no.
really all they have left is this game and whatever they invent to pad the clock, to pad the
And
stats. So that
which
might be
there
the
were
season 2
hints of a
conclusion.
third game, so there might be a third game
Yeah,
script that they might just try to turn into a live
that's
action
possible.
third season as well.
Do you think and then not produce the game, or do you think that I don't see those two things existing at the same time? Like, why sell? You'd rather sell me the $70 game than let me watch it on HBO Max. I
Well,
think they want to put a third game out in the series sooner or later.
and I think that would be the way to do it. Maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, because then you would know the story unless you really want to play the story. But I mean, of course, like Star Wars came out, and the Star Wars game came out, so
right.
I guess they might be going for that type of and like as you can see, the show's not exactly like the game, so you have to play the game to get the true story or something like that. I
Well,
don't
see,
know.
that makes me. Well, I wonder about that because we've talked about that a few times, like when we were actually doing our review, and that's in our playlist somewhere, guys. Kingsley and I do an episode by episode breakdown of The Last of Us season 1. Um, I wonder what that Venn diagram looks like. You got the people that have played the games, the people that have no idea, and then that intersection is people that have, people that enjoyed what they saw on the TV. I'd like to know where that is because I wonder if they could get away with doing a season 2 that basically does almost nothing from the game except feature a subplot or two and the main and all of the main characters. So you have to have Abby. Obviously, they've casted
Yeah,
Abby. We have Ellie. We have Ellie's girlfriend. I can't remember the character's name. It's either Sarah or Dina. I can't remember. I think it's Dina.
Dina,
Um,
Dina.
and obviously Joel. You know what I mean? So they have all their and Joel's brother. They have their main players. But I mean, could a bunch of their 8-episode run be other offshoot adventures that weren't part of The Last of Us 2, for better or worse, and they run the risk of them being completely out of touch with falling into the bottle episode trap or just getting involved in subplots that really don't add up. I remember in season 1, there was the subplot with they ran into a community and it was headed up by a woman whose brother had been sold out by somebody and she was kind of like the acting governor kind of thing. You really liked that subplot. I did not. I was more invested in the young brothers that Ellie and Joel found that they were trying to get to Baltimore or wherever they were going at that time. But you enjoyed that subplot, so it worked for you. It probably worked for a bunch of other
Mm.
people. It's dangerous because that's not in the game at all, but it worked. So I wonder if they have enough creative juice to come up with two, maybe three of those kind of things to flesh the season, and then have the big event cap off the finale, and then
Yeah,
get into episode season 3,
season 3, which would
which is like the
be
revenge story of the thing, right?
yeah. I would like to see a series on the cranky old couple from season 1. I want to see just a straight series of just them two surviving in this.
Bill and what's his name? That'd be all right because they put off a bunch of they repelled a bunch of raids on their compound.
Oh
Like they weren't
no,
fucking
no,
around.
I was talking about the Native American couple,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
grumpy
That's
old
right.
people.
Yes, that Joel and Ellie run into up in the when they were getting up in the into Oregon or Portland or wherever they
Yeah,
Portland is in Oregon. You know what I mean? That's right. They were all right. They had some pretty good banter. They were
yeah.
all right. I forgot all about that until you mentioned that. They were good though. They were good. But I mean, but again, I think that it's pathetic that there are folks that exist on whichever side of I hate culture war. It's such a stupid word, right? But there are nutbags out there on all sides, and it's not. It should
And
never be a place where your opinion allows you to just dress down somebody personally or threaten them with actual physical violence, not ideas or violence. You know what I mean? Not saying your performance was bad, but like literally color somebody's skin. Pathetic. You know what I mean? Threatening somebody with like, the hard R word for graping. No, weird, weird, weird. Oh, we should have cued that. That was our
Yeah.
chance. That was our chance to use a Zeglerism with the weird. Damn it. Gonna work on that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
we're
dude,
trying to
I
get
know you
better
feel the
here.
same way. If you want to wrap that up. We need one of those what are they called? Stream we're boomers.
Stream
Stream
decks.
decks. Stream decks where King Z can just dial up some cool shit. Let me know how much those are in the comments, and I'll send King Z one for his birthday. That's coming up. Unless I find out they're like $1,000, and then you're gonna have to sort that out. Can't do that.
No,
But
they're
yeah,
a
I'm sure
couple
you feel the
hundred.
same way about. Oh, we could talk. Any other kind of closing remarks on just that? It's kind of pathetic and
Well,
baseline golden rule ABC 1 2 3. Just don't be a
it
dick.
goes a lot with our culture now, especially with the celebrity worship and stuff like that. I mean, think of all the people who follow Taylor Swift around, and like, there's been death threats
Yeah.
on her based on
There's a
what she
voting block
said
I'm
or
afraid of.
done. I mean,
Right.
celebrity worship has been a thing for a long time. I mean, the first one I remember was Reagan getting shot because the guy wanted to impress Jodie Foster. That's the reason why Reagan
Yeah,
was
I could see
shot.
that.
If you don't know why the Brady Bill happened, that just go look that whole thing up. That's what happened there. But
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned influencers though. That's a thing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's a thing that studios I think take into account when they cast, when they hire. You know,
oh yeah, and one of the things you got to expect in
so
those studios is
that's something
that
we're always gonna have to
certain
contend with.
people draw these type of people automatically. Like, you're going to get a lot of screaming teenage girls if you bring in like Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift. You're going to
Yeah.
get a lot of guys that are going to be drooling if you bring in someone like Sweeney, or girls when you bring in Glenn Powers. I mean, or you'd have me hanging out there if like Chris Pine was there. I'm like, that's my boy, Chris Pine, right there.
That's my boy. It's Pine.
Yeah,
What up, Pine?
I swear, I told my wife this too. I was like, it would be like Barney and Ted. I would come up to him like, I'm going to teach you how to live, Chris.
Dude, we all got. I guess we all got one of them. True that, true that. But I think it just does it not just strike you as odd though that like there's no love lost between me and any of the people that I'm overtly critical of like the job that I see on screen. If I'm a paying customer and they're supposed to put out a product, like there's a big channel on Up and Rise, Snarky J. She's starting to hang out in the kind of circles that we follow, and she did a video today on it's like the 2-year anniversary of her review of She-Hulk, and I'm like, God bless you, I'm not going back to that show, but I'm like, unless the lead of your show comes out and does an interview like the Acolyte did with Leslie Headland and Amanda Stenberg and make dumbass remarks that are aimed at the viewer, aimed at the person paying for the subscription, if Tatiana Maslany at She-Hulk didn't make the dumbass remarks that she made regarding fans, regarding YouTube channels that post critical reviews, you could have just had a middling to kind of crap show that nobody would have remembered in a month and probably wouldn't have derailed your efforts. Like, there's a reason you weren't part of Wolverine and Daredevil. Wolverine, Daredevil, where Wolverine and Deadpool, like literally everybody else was, that they approached us to be in the damn thing. That's not true, but
No.
like almost everybody else was, anybody of any kind of like importance to things. And you could have been in that in a post credit or some bullshit, but like they know you're toxic. You're actually toxic to the brand. Like, you
Yeah.
think our attitude is toxic, but you're actually a toxic asset to hold. She won't be in it. What phase are we on? Is this 6? Is this phase 6 for everything that
No,
comes
I
out
think
now from
they're entering
Captain 4
5.
and
No,
Thunderbolts?
I think this is phase
This
5.
this
Phase 6 is the
is this 5? Okay.
when they're leading into
Is
the
Doomsday
two Avengers
and all
movie.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
The,
All right. So yeah, what are the
Doomsday and Secret
odds that you
Wars.
think this chick? What do you think the odds are this chick shows up in the Ironheart show, Agatha All Along, Thunderbolts, Captain 4 post credit scenes? Dude, you're never gonna see this person again, ever. I'd bet money on it. I'd bet money on it for all those same reasons. The accusations that are unfounded, that end up having studios think they have to hire extra security because they read other nutbags that post 1 or 2 things. It's weird. Just stop being weird, people. Just like shit, don't like shit, don't threaten anybody. But also, us not liking your product isn't a threat. It's not. Sorry. Toughen
Yeah.
up.
Speaking of people not liking stuff, apparently there's a big controversy coming up with this new Cape Crusader show. have you heard about this show? Because I didn't until I got this. Which one is this one?
So
Okay.
it's out. It's on Amazon Prime, so they do the episode dump. They don't always, but they did for this one. So it's got like 10 episodes out there. But the reason I brought it up is exactly what you see here in the headline. Batman Cape Crusader showrunner Bruce Timm, who has quite the pedigree in DC art. The guy's drawn in their books. He was like a lead guy on the animated series. He was a lead guy on Batman Beyond. He's done all the good DC animated movies that you've talked about a couple of times. His name on his wiki and on his IMDb has like a trillion credits for all the DC animated stuff. You can go up just a little bit more, just because I want to read the headline before we let that unseeable image sink in. Bruce Timm says Penguin was gender swapped on Cape Crusader because one of the problems with Batman as he is there's a lack of good villains. I'm like, bro, you've worked for DC for like 3 decades. This guy's in his 60s, right? You're going to sit there and tell me that Rogues Gallery doesn't have interesting villains? Like, he's a co-creator of Harley, for Christ's sake. Like, I honestly don't get how this guy has this viewpoint and just arbitrarily swapped the Penguin villain into this. And then it was awful. I watched the first 2 episodes of this show. It I can't explain how not fun it is to watch. It's not TAS. Not
So
even close.
for
Looks like it, but it's not.
in the defense of this, if you read the full article, they do believe he means no good female villains, because when he starts listing villains off, he only lists the female ones. So he might have just misspoke with no good
I
villains, and
mean,
then the people took that as the sound bite and ran with it.
but dude, did we run with the sound bit, or could we not just then say this gentleman was uniquely positioned to correct that by inventing something new? You're the guy. You're the lead dog. Like,
And this,
you co-created Harley. You can't come up with a new concept and may not the dude. Switching the genders in a character is the most lazy thing you can do, creatively speaking. It's beyond tired at this point. Beyond this, and this wasn't done. Like the usual gripe would be, oh, it's woke, and that's why they did this. Like, no, like he
no,
said, he thought there was no interesting female villains. This is going to be the thing that makes it interesting.
or
Really?
not
This
enough.
I laughed my balls off when I saw this. Right. So we're talking about a character that's existed coming up on 100 years, and this guy's written for them since like the 90s, I think. And this was
Yeah,
they handed him a 6-figure paycheck, and this is it.
he was part of the original animated series.
That's what
Like,
I'm saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
he helped write in that. And one of the things when you deal with an IP such as Batman, I mean, he's probably seen all the backlash a lot of people have given for like making slight changes anywhere else. So I think he took the safe, lazy bet on this one instead of trying to create something new and then get a lot of backlash on that. And this one's more of a controlled backlash because the Penguin is an established
Yeah,
character,
predictable.
and doing a gender swap really doesn't change the story all that much, because the Penguin's none of his powers. If you live in a universe where you have 3 Jokers, when they're and all the time you
Right.
only, like before that, you only saw one, you could really do anything. And I think creating something new holds higher risk than it was just doing a
Oh
simple
yeah.
gender swap of a established enemy.
Well, that's why I like how you said it. I mean, it was in the last sentence you said where it was like he took the safe. It was lazy and safe, and
Yeah.
that's really where the laziness comes from. It's from that risk averse status that they all occupy. Like, I think you're right, because we use an extension of this complaint a lot when we talk about getting legacy characters, that everything's a mantle. Batman's now a mantle. Robin's been a mantle for forever. Superman's a mantle. The Punisher's a mantle. Wolverine's a mantle, right? Because they operate in that space where it is a lot of work to do something creatively original, and then to watch it have to sink or swim has a certain dollar value attached to it. It has a certain emotional toll attached to it. It's difficult
Yeah.
to start like if you're on the indie scene and you're not backed by one of the big two financially, strapped as they are. I understand that. We're indie guys ourselves. Like, we write independently. It's tough to get things noticed, but these guys are on the in effing side, dude. I feel like there's a level of those kind of restrictions or limitations should apply to us because we're not on the marketplace like that. But they are. But
Exact
he is.
opposite. Exact
You think?
opposite. Because higher amount of money is invested in this. You're not dealing
Mm,
with hundreds of dollars like me and you are when we do it. They're doing it with hundreds of
millions.
millions of dollars. So
Back.
there's more,
Yeah.
there's more attached to it. So it's the exact opposite. If you are an independent freelancer, shoot for the moon, create something new and have fun with it. If you're if you have a $200 million budget and this project's riding on your back, you're gonna go with the safe. If it's lazy, it's lazy, but you're gonna go with the safe route because you got to protect your investment.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a good lot of sense. I guess for me, I'm looking at recently like a list because I'm working on like a video topic idea, and I'm looking at some of my favorite movies from back in the day, right? From like the 80s. I mean, like the big dog favorites of mine, RoboCop, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, stuff like that, right? Those kind of things. Every one of those things, especially things like Back to the Future, it's a wildly high concept kind of thing. Time travel, bizarre, right? But they
You need
catch
a
that
time
lightning in a
machine
bottle,
out
and a
of
legend
DeLorean.
is born when they do it. And it's like, out of a DeLorean, you got to do it with some style, right? Exactly. Sitting
And
there
that's
saying
the
to myself,
thing.
just fucking once, if somebody present day was just like, nah, we're just going to do this thing, you know, I'd love to see somebody take that shot, because if you don't, look what we get, right? We get this. I watched the first 2, 3 episodes of this show. It's not as bad. It's not a 10 like some people say. It's definitely not a 1, but it's probably barely a 5. It's not the animated series. It reframes a bunch of crap for a time period we know don't exist. Like the lead DA on the show, like Montoya on the show, Hispanic, lesbian in Gotham in the 30s. Like the show is set in like the 30s, 40s, like openly gay. No, not a thing. Like they do weird stuff like that where they try to rewrite the history of the world as it was. And I get it. It's not the real world, but there is that suspension of disbelief for, especially for our age bracket, where we're historically aware of that time period. We know what that shit was like. And we know that it's not, the Gotham has always been based on gritty New York, and then we just added weird superpower shit to it, but it still had those elements. Those social elements have always been there. So the show is not fun to watch in the same quippy way the animated series or Batman Beyond was. And again, it's because I'm so tired and burned out of these kind of things that I saw Oswaldo Cobblepot, and I'm like, nope, fuck this show. But I still watched 2 more episodes because they're only like 20 minutes long. So it's like live action, it's like non-live action Acolyte. But
So,
yeah, I just wish they weren't. I wish we weren't as risk averse. Like if we managed budgets and scaled things down, we could take chances.
and that's the thing too, is like they with how do I put this? With the way the inflation is, oh, looks like you dropped out. I'm just gonna keep going here then though. Um, the way inflation is, you're gonna see prices go up, but with that, prices of everything still goes up, and by doing that, people are gonna have to use their money more wisely, and that's how they're trying to do. They're trying to make sure that people are being wise with their money and they're taking less risk because they have to protect their investment, and that's why they stick with stuff they know that has a huge fan base and stuff like that instead of taking chances. But there's so many different ways for independent creators, new creators, to get out there. I mean, there's YouTube, like what we're doing here. Like in back in the day when we were growing up, there was nothing like this that we could have done. We would have to
Right.
like write stories and stuff like that. So I can see, especially with the rising cost of everything, that the reason why they go with certain IPs like this, because people have less money to spend on discretionary stuff like going to the theater,
Yeah.
or they're starting to cut down on streaming services because streaming now is more expensive than cable because there's 1700 streaming services that you have to have, and there's certain
Right.
things on each one, and it's just like, what's the point at this point? I thought I went to streaming to get rid of cable, and now I'm paying more than cable. But that's beside the point off the subject. People have less money now due to stuff like inflation and rising cost of household goods where food costs more. And are you going to choose to watch entertainment, or are you going to worry about putting food on the table? I think food on the table is going to come before Amazon
Eat.
Prime.
Right.
So with that said, they have to go with what's safe. And that's the problem we're in. Everybody is in CYA mode just to make sure that they're getting stuff out there, because you got to have something new, because people get tired of the same old, unless you're like me and you go back and watch the same show 7 times over and over again until the end of the season. And then you go back to one of your other 7 shows, watch it till it's done, and then go back. But most people want something new, and they try to stay with something that is less risk averse.
Dude, you know what? I'm going to throw my challenge flag on you for that last point, because the streaming numbers don't bear they don't bear that out at all. Like when we look at things like what the highest, like the most popular things streaming on Netflix are, historically they've been like Friends and that show you keep telling me about, Suits. Like people go back to the classics because I think most of the new stuff is subpar for whatever reason, production reason, progressive value reason, whatever reason you have, is that there are a lot of people that do only stream King of Queens on Peacock or wherever the hell that is. But I agree with you on like CYA and like things being expensive. I said to somebody earlier in a chat somewhere, like it's not just expensive for us to go to the movies, it's expensive for movies to be made. But so everybody's kind of cost averse anyway. But I think the problem here is like when we were talking about budgets in the first segment with the Acolyte and with something like House of the Dragon. Things, if things are costing you 180 million, but other things like Godzilla minus one are costing you 15 million, maybe there's a way to just set a budget and say, hey, we're making 10 episodes of the Acolyte. Here's 100 million. Sort it. And not go over costs on reshoots and not go over costs on not getting money on the screen. You know what I mean? Because that all their money is sketchy anyway. Because I don't think it was shot in the same place. Like when we talked about Andor, because it's filmed in Britain on what's it, Pinewood Studios, or I think that was the name of their location over there.
Pinewood,
They have to file.
London.
Yes, they have to file all their stuff publicly. It's very different in England. How all that stuff works is they can't hide money. It does not work that way here, as you know, from American film, and that money can move from one pocket to the other and cover costs and losses for other unrelated projects, or it can just disappear. It's very odd how it can work here. But I mean, but again, I think scaling these things down, it should be step one, because then instead of going all in on a busted idea like the Acolyte, you could get the Acolyte, but then maybe you can also do the Clone Troopers show or Rogue Squadron or something like that. And you could have 2 shows, or you could just divert it to something else completely, instead of just putting it all in one basket and hoping for the best. Like hedge your losses and diversify your portfolio, bitches. You know, I got to quote some Chappelle on that. I don't know. Or not, protect. Yeah, diversify. Wu-Tang skit.
So speaking about going back
shit.
to this
Yeah.
same old, James Cameron's
Oh
up to
God,
his old
I regret
tricks
this.
again. James Cameron is talking in an interview. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Where are you?
I regret adding this to our topic list like 5 minutes after I added it, but in light of Romulus, it might be a good way to round out the show. Hey, let's do that thing where we thank everybody for being here. Well, let's do that. Let's thank people for being here after the second segment from now on. So we'll do it now after the third one. Thank you for being here, everybody. We do appreciate it.
Yes, we do appreciate
Things he
you
does a much
coming
better
in.
spiel, but whatever. It was my idea.
As you see, we started this new podcast
Wednesday nights, 9
format
o'clock,
with
FrostCast.
Yeah, that's right. Just go ahead and just throw it out there. That's right. I got it right there.
There it is.
9 to 10 Eastern. We're doing this podcast called FrostCast. We are on currently YouTube only. We will be going to the other ones. I've just been really busy. I'm a one-man show. I do run a full production company, so please cut me some slack. I know I promised you last week that we'd be on Spotify and some of the other ones, audio only and video.
We'll get there.
On Spotify. We will get there. Hopefully real soon, as I was swamped with 2 projects, so I'm sorry.
Wanted to get put a special nod there too. Yeah, go ahead.
But anyways, thank you for coming along. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up if you are enjoying our podcast version of what we do here. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you never miss us. If you forget that it is Wednesday nights, 9 to 10 p.m. 10 Eastern. You hit that notification, it will come up, it will notify you on all your mobile devices, so you can go ahead and join us, to leave us your great comments, join the community, make sure you add come in here. Tonight it's been kind of slow, but other nights we've had a lot of comments. And I'm not too worried about throwing them up there so you can see. We want you to be part of the show. I mean, after all, it's just two guys talking. It would be nothing without you guys coming in and sharing your thoughts, so we could, have a full discourse on topics. But talking about discourse, let's go back and talk
Yeah,
about Mr.
here it
Cameron
comes.
over here, who thinks he could do another Terminator project after falling on his face after T2. Time and time and time again. He needs a time machine to go back and make him stop trying to make another Terminator movie.
No, no, we need the time machine because you can send me back in time. I'll shoot him after T2 is done. Dude, I don't dude, just saw Romulus. You guys can check out my review on Romulus. I hosted with the Armor. This was big hour-long takedown. Go check that out. Dude, I love the Terminator. I love the idea, but it's an idea that's been. Dude, you want to talk about ideas that have been done? You think Alien's been done? Dude, Terminator is the same movie except for Salvation 6 times or 5 times, however many other times besides Salvation, right? It's the same thing. I'm so sick and tired of the paradox, go back in time to kill baby Hitler loop thing that they do. Like, set some shit during the future war and make it look good, like Salvation. Just do a better story. But like, that's what people want. That's what people
What
want. We want that.
what they need to do with it as well is to make sure that it has more consequences of sending more and more back, that it should make it where
Oh
they're
yeah, that'd be
weaker
great.
and weaker.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's one thing that they're going with the animated series with Terminator Zero, is that he
Oh
actually
yeah, that's
found
right.
pieces from one of the others, which drops next week actually on Netflix. You have Terminator
No,
Zero. Yes,
no, it's August. I thought it was September. You sure?
I'm pretty sure it's August.
Oh, dude, hype mode activated now, dude, for sure. Because I need this series needs this kind of injection with like a different visual style being animated. Even if it's American animation, if it's more of an anime form, I think it's anime
I
styles
think
because
it's
it's
more
in Japan.
anime type
Yeah, yeah,
style, because it's actually set in Japan, Japanese characters.
right,
So,
right.
and I
So
think
it
that's what
needs this
this
desperately.
and I think that's what this one has, is that it he found parts of one of the other Terminators that came back and started developing because he heard what
Oh,
happened.
yep,
So he
yep.
starts developing a way to fight it, which maybe that's what John Connor finds in the future to help him combat the get the humans to
Oh,
combat the robots
when
better
they invent the time tech,
or
dude.
something like that.
Dude,
Yeah.
I honestly don't care what the story and the animated thing is because I think the visual presentation enough will be alone. What kills me about this and why we brought up the Cameron article is because this is the same dude, right? Who went ahead and already told me twice that Terminator Genesis and then Terminator Dark Fate were incredibly powerful, unique, original, inspired, whatever superlative you want to use. And I get it. Like, I guess you have to do that kind of thing, but at some point no one's buying the magic beans anymore, man. Like, we just can't. Like, what story do we think James Cameron's going to do for Terminator live action that doesn't involve sending two things back in time to equally protect or kill some victim in the past, right? And when we come off of Dark Fate, like, I think whatever goodwill this movie might have had, like, people are done with Terminator. Killing John Connor might have been as dumb as the whole Luke Skywalker character destruction in TLJ. Like, people did not react well to seeing that, and people were like checked out. And that was like 5 minutes in the movie. The same thing with the saber toss. It was the opening reel of that movie was John Connor. Oh wait, turns out T2 didn't work. Sorry, bang, dead. And then them introducing some do nothing border crisis immigrant character to take his place, leader of humanity, but she's half the size of the chick they cast to play Abby that we were talking about. Like, it was just dumb. I don't think there's anything redeemable about that, about Dark Fate at all. So I don't know, what is this guy's core concept gonna be. Like you said, man, there's only so much. This whole thing was inspired by like an episode of like the Twilight Zone that featured a very similar idea, time traveling soldier that went back. But like, they built the whole franchise out of this garbage, and only one of the sequels has been a blockbuster. And I happen to like Salvation. I know I'm in the minority on that. I get it,
Oh, I
but
liked Salvation too. I thought it was different. That was the one
because it
where
was Future
Christian
War,
Bale.
bro. Future War. You
Yeah,
know?
but it was the part. It was the part everyone wanted to see after T2, like what was the
Right.
future actually like?
Yeah, 100%.
But with
100%.
what you just said brings me to my question of the day.
Oh,
You
snap.
sprung into my head. If you could go back in time to World War II and you could bring one thing with you from modern warfare, what would you bring besides nuclear weapons?
If I went back to World War II and I couldn't bring a nuke because they're going to have them in a couple of years anyway, um, am I limited to one item, or
Yep,
is it
one
just like the
item.
idea of the thing? So like one rifle.
Like,
That's the parameter here.
yep. Or
Okay.
I would expand it. You could bring a case, and in
Okay.
that case, but if you bring a rifle, you can't bring like a rifle and a rocket launcher. It would be like
I
a
got you. I
case
got you.
of rifles.
Can I bring one B2 bomber?
If you want to, yeah.
Okay. Can I bring one aircraft carrier fully equipped?
No.
Okay. So B2. I take the B2 bomber. It'll change the face of everything that happened in on the beaches. It'd only take one. Sort that whole thing out. It'd be a steamroll. No losses. The armor lands. Whole war changes.
Okay.
Although, would I do something on the Pacific front instead? That's a good question, dude. We're gonna have to talk about that later. That's a good one.
My
That's a
answer
good one.
was I wouldn't bring a sword. I would bring a shield. I would bring back a case of body armor. How many
Hmm.
lives with modern body armor would have been saved?
Yeah, if you could hook up one, like one squad or one battalion with body armor, if that could be a thing, yeah,
Yeah.
you could do some shit. Um, Good. I have no segue to get it back into that final topic because there was another half to that about
Yeah, there
the other
was.
half of about getting back into the swing of things on the
Well,
heels of
we were talking
Romulus.
about. I was talking about body armor. Let's talk about some
Yeah,
face hugging.
let's talk about some. They should have just had face armor. Dude,
Oh, I think I closed the article. That's my bad.
no, dude, don't need it. It's all good, dude.
Okay.
So my question, I guess, is kind of it's a question to you. If Romulus gets all the acclaim it gets and it opened very well, but it does have mixed opinions on folks that say it is too heavy on the callbacks, and it was better when it was standing on its own until all the callbacks kind of happened in the second half of the second act, and then the finale, which turned a lot of people off. Right? What is it about these franchises that makes people so afraid to just respect what came before, which I would say Romulus does, except for that one very stupid Ripley dialogue line ripoff, which was awful, right? What is it about them that makes like Star Wars, Alien, Terminator, whatever, like move 50 years into the future, reference an old event if you have to, and then just tell me a new story that involves the thing? Like, why can't we do that? What is this obsession with linking everything retroactively backwards? Because it doesn't seem to be too risk averse to me. It seems to invite disaster every time they do it.
It would be mostly because they're trying to pander to the fan base and they want that nostalgia feel with their new project. So it would be received as well as the original. You do it because people want to come and see stuff like that because that's what they associate what happens in these type of movies. Now, making a completely original movie set in that universe and doing its own thing without insulting the originals, that would be amazing. Something like Rogue One, Andor, stuff like that. That is set in the universe that has its own story and did a fantastic job without taking away from what's already been told.
I think you're spot on that, man. I think my biggest, the more I look back on Romulus, I'm like, I get you doing kind of like you referentially use obviously some of the big materials like the face huggers, chest bursting, like you need those things. Those are cornerstones. But I think I draw the line here, and I just don't understand how some people found this enjoyable. Like Ripley doing the line "Get away from her, you bitch" in Aliens is iconic. Like when we talk about strong female characters, like that line is burned into every fan's head. Ripley and the loader facing off with, Queen Zeno with Nude on the line. Like people are down for that fight. So when you stand in a character in a prequel of all things, or a side, yeah, prequel, because she said in Aliens, and you have
A
somebody else
middle.
co-op that line, and it was a interquel, midquel, whatever it's called. You have somebody else co-op that line and deliver it in a joking tone, like I don't find that funny. I just don't. It's not entertaining. It's not badass because the inflection on it's like he's asking a question, like, "Get away from her, you bitch." Like, it was just weird, dude. It was off. I know you didn't see it, so that happens in the
No,
movie, guys. If you hadn't seen it, but
you
that's how it goes down. I'm like,
reminded me of a line from a movie I worked on that was just so bad. We used it as a joke throughout the whole thing when it was delivered that bad,
oh,
and it had the
right,
same explicitive. So
yeah.
it just when it's delivered poorly, it's bad.
Dude. And like that's the thing, like it wasn't that it was delivered poorly, it was just delivered stupidly. Like the character that says it is not a badass action hero, space marine. He's very much a timid, obsolete android type, but he was trying to save the lead, you know? But like it was just dumb. So it's like it's a lighter version of when we complain about the Kenobi show when they have Vader and Kenobi duel 10 years ahead of them dueling in A New Hope. It undermines the impact of that
Yeah,
exchange. When
yeah,
last we met, I was the learner. Now I'm the, like, this dude saying this means that in 5 years, when Ripley says it in their time, if you watch these movies chronologically, you're going to be like, that dude already said that though. It's just, I hate that. So, I mean, you can do the callbacks and the tie-ins with like the Black Goo and Xenos and Wayland Utani because that's story world stuff. I get that. I don't like the Black Goo Prometheus stuff, but I understand why it could be there. But reusing the lines, or did this movie probably have like seven shot for shot recreations of like the lead walking down the ladder and us getting her Reeboks in the frame the same way we did Ripley's. You know what I mean? Like you do one or two of those, so like the film aficionados can be like, all right, then I see what you did there. But they had like 8 of them. They're like do your own movie. Like seriously, do your own fucking movie. I just wish we could move on and just and not even if we're selling out on writing new stuff altogether. If we're that risk averse, could we please tone down and take the water wings and the crash helmet off and at least just play fan fiction as originally as you can without the training wheels, please. That's all I'm saying. Final thoughts on that, King Z. We're up against it.
I don't really have any final thoughts on it. I didn't watch it. I do like the original movies. I did actually. I enjoyed Prometheus. Second one after that, Covenant, I think it was.
Covenant. Yeah.
It
Covenant.
wasn't as good. I mean, I watched it mostly because Michael Fassbender was in it, and I like Michael Fassbender as an actor.
Saving Grace. Yeah. David was a good
Uh,
character. Fact.
but other than that, I don't know. I kind of want something new. I'm tired of seeing the same IPs. We've hit that nail on the head too many times in this very conversation tonight and
Yeah.
any of our other 3 episodes of FrostCast that's out there now that you can see on YouTube.
True that. We do tend to beat that horse, but again, like when we do get new stuff like Rebel Moon, we make an entirely different kind of video and then it's funny.
And that's the other problem is because when people do try something new, even though it was bad, it gets bashed on because people try too hard to make be too original or be too same but
It
original.
was Rebel Moon was derivative and original at
Yeah.
the same time, and I don't get how.
But I
Dude,
don't
45 minutes of cutting wheat by hand, bro.
yeah,
45
I don't
minutes.
need slow motion farming, man.
Dude, it was slow mo. That's right. I forgot it was slow mo scything. Oh my
Yeah.
God, was that bad?
Oh,
Go
and
watch that
the
review, guys. It's
separating,
hilarious.
the
Yeah,
separating. He's like,
there was
and they're supposed to be coming out
like,
with the
dude,
director's cut. I mean,
dude, it
what
came out
else
and
are you
it
gonna put in
bombed.
it?
Dude, and that scene had like the soundtrack, like they ripped off the soundtrack from like from Gladiator. Well, for the wheat scene from Gladiator, it's like they reused it in Rebel Moon. I'm like, doesn't hit the same, guys. Sorry, it just doesn't, man. All right, dude. I think we're good here, man. Do the thing. Do the thing, man. We
Well,
appreciate you guys.
see ya.